Hi everybody, this is Paxton Gray. Today we're going to talk about content, how you can change your content and perspective on content to provide better results for your business and a better experience for your customers. We're going to go over an intro, thinking about content from a different perspective, how you can use 3 different elements to gather data to improve your content. So I come from 97th Floor. I'm the CEO of 97th Floor. We're a digital marketing agency that specializes in SEO, content, advertising, and design. And what I'm going to share with you are the things that we've learned. These are some awards that we've won for the work that we've done. Our culture is fantastic. We have 100 employees. We've learned a lot of things over the years. And more specifically, these are kind of brands we work on. We work with big, large, content-producing, direct-to-consumer, B2B companies in tech, finance. So we've learned a lot over the past 15 years about content. We've made a lot of mistakes and learned a lot of lessons, and I hope that I can share a lot of those lessons with you today so that you can improve your content quickly. So this article was written a while ago by Mark Schaefer. It talks about content shock. And his whole idea here is that there's so much content in the world that it's impossible for anybody to focus on all of it. So it becomes harder and harder to do content marketing because it gets more and more crowded. And because it's harder, it's almost not worth doing at a certain point. Well, I hope the people at Content Marketing World don't believe that, because I don't believe that. Here's why I don't believe it. This article was written in 1902, and you'll see it says, "Books slay us. We have too many of them. There are too many kinds," right? This was written in 1924. Too many books written, too few of them to read. This was written in 1992. There are too many channels. I mean, how many channels were there in 1992? Maybe there were like 50 or 100 even. But now what are we dealing with? But back then they felt like it was just too much. And this was written in 2019. There are just too many podcasts and not enough time. So I think, in fact, if I go back one slide, the feeling that we have as consumers of there being too much is not new. That's something we've always felt and has always been, frankly, just a part of human existence. So I don't think that that should inform our decision to invest in content or not. I actually think that there's not enough. When these people say there are too many podcasts, too many books, too many shows, I actually think what they're saying without realizing it, or what they're feeling without realizing it, is that there's not enough. There's not enough good podcasts. There's not enough good shows. There aren't enough good books that are worth reading, and it becomes hard to sort through all of the chaff and the things that are just not worth our time to find the golden nuggets. Think about how many times you've gone back and watched The Office again, right? We watch it over and over and over again. I mean, there are people that have watched that whole series, dozens of times. Why? Well, because it's good. And they forego watching a bunch of new stuff that is mediocre. And there's good stuff to watch, but largely there's not that many good shows on. And we live in a world where we are able to fracture our media to really speak to an audience. And I think that's true for our content as well. Content Marketing Institute, they did a study a while ago about people in the industry and what we've perceived as the biggest problems as marketers. And the number one response to that survey was that we don't have enough time. 69% said not enough time. The number 2 response was we're not able to produce enough content. And as you can see, the third response was we're not able to produce content as engaging, 47%. So I want to know why. Why those 3, and why in that order? And I think I have a theory, an idea for this. So in every organization, you've got the boss, right? And the boss is the CEO, the boss is the CMO, or maybe the boss is you, and this is like an internal discussion. But you've got the boss, you've got the marketer. The boss just says, give me viral content. You know the dress from a few years ago? Give me that. Like, give me something that people just go nuts for. That's what we want. Or our competitors had something that went viral. We want that. And the marketer's just like, okay, well, what does that even mean, really? And this is kind of a funny time to be talking about viral and viruses. Do you really want to compare your content to a virus? What we're talking about when we talk about our content going viral is we're focused entirely on how it spreads. It spreads exponentially. And without saying it directly, when we talk about our content going viral, that means that we are inherently focused on what we get out of the content. Do you think a virus cares about the people it infects? No, not at all. It just is focused on spreading and reproducing, almost against the will of the host or the recipient. So trying to create viral content, we start working. We start writing our blog posts, filming our video, designing our infographic, whatever. And we all do this. Right before we hit publish, we hit submit. We say a little prayer to the marketing gods. We say, dear marketing gods, please let this go viral. And we send our baby off into the universe. And because we're thinking about ourselves and what we get out of this content, not enough about the market and how they think and how they're going to react to this, we miss. We miss more often than we hit. And because we miss, we respond by just creating more content over and over, videos, white papers, infographics, blog posts. It just is endless, the amount of content that we're producing as an industry as a whole. So I think the reason we listed these three as our top three concerns is actually because of number 3 here. It's because we're not able to produce content that engages. Because if we could produce content that engages, we wouldn't have to spend as much time, producing that content, and we wouldn't have to produce as much of it, which is our number 2 concern. So really, it's almost the problem that we listed this as our number 3 concern rather than our number 1 concern, which really it should be, is producing content that actually engages our audience. And it's crazy that only half of us responded as that as our primary concern. So how do we create content that engages? I think about, obviously the brain is not divided in terms of like there's a creative and an analytical, like we know that, right? But it's still like ourselves, we're kind of divided in that way. We have an analytical side to ourselves and we have a creative side, and sometimes they work together, sometimes they're in conflict. But in the content production process, I like to think about the marketer as this, half analytical, half creative person. If we only engage the analytical side of ourselves, which we do sometimes, that produces content that frankly just doesn't, it's very hard to get content like that to resonate. So what we need to do is use our analytical side of our brain to gather information specifically on our market, how they think, how they act. This is the traditional research stuff that we were taught in school and in marketing, right? Gather as much of that information as possible. But then we need to activate the creative side of ourselves to crunch that information and turn it into a creative solution that will speak to our audience in the way that they want to be spoken to. David Ogilvy has a good quote on this. He says that big ideas come from the unconscious, but your unconscious has to be well informed or your idea is going to be irrelevant, like the Michael Jordan idea. So stuff your conscious mind with information, but then unhook your rational thought process. Let your brain do what it does really well, which is naturally chew on the information that it receives. Whenever we have a gut feeling, what that is our brains have been gathering all this information and suddenly made a connection. So how do we gather that data? I'm going to give you 3 ways to gather some data. There's hundreds of ways to gather data. That's really important for your marketing. But I'm going to give you 3 cool ones that you can use today, as well as some giveaways and tool suggestions that you can use right now. So here's what it looks like in execution. SpyFu, great tool for this. I love SpyFu. Mainly, it's super cheap and it's really fast. It kind of does what it's supposed to do really fast. So go to SpyFu. You just click on SEO keywords. And it brings you here. So let's pretend for this example that we are the marketing team for Acorns. So if you don't know Acorns, they're micro investing. You invest spare change, and they invest in mutual funds. It's an app. So we're going to take Acorns. We're going to plug them into SpyFu. We're going to click Go, basically, and get everything that Acorns ranks for, along with bid, volume, and difficulty. So that gives us everything they rank for, tons of keywords already. We're going to export that, save that as a CSV, and then I'm just going to set it aside for a second. Now I'm going to go to Betterment. I'm going to go to Stash. I'm going to go to Robinhood, all their competitors potentially. And I'm going to plug them into SpyFu, see everything they're ranking for, export all of those, and save them as CSVs, and I'm going to set them aside. So now I've got 4 CSVs of my keywords and all my competitors' keywords, and I'm not done yet. A lot of people will stop there. The next thing you need to do is go to publishers that talk specifically about what you do. So don't go to Forbes if you're Acorns. Go to things like Mr. Money Mustache or The Penny Hoarder, right? They're about micro kind of investing and small finance. They're not big financial investors aren't reading these blogs, but the kind of people who use Acorns are reading these blogs. So the reason that's important is because these publishers rank for thousands of keywords that your competitors have never heard of before. And so this is going to give you an edge. The competitors, that will allow you to find areas where you can compete with them head to head because they're already ranking for it. But the publishers allow you to go around your competitors and rank for things they don't even know exist. So then you're going to take all these CSVs, you're going to smash them together, you're going to remove duplicates. This is what it looks like, and it should be tens of thousands of rows long. Now how in the world are you going to sort through all this data quickly? I built a template, and all you need to do is take all your data, you plug it straight into the template, and it will get to work. It takes a second to run, but it will color code every cell based off of how it compares to the rest of the cells in that column. Basically, green means good, red means bad. So now all you have to do is look for the keywords that are green in every column, which means that they're in the top 70% for each of the metrics. If you look in this row right here, all you need to do is sort, and everything that has a 1 in it means it's green on every column. So now you can take 40,000 keywords, plug it all in here, just sort by column J, and it will bring everything with a 1 to the top. Now all you need to do at this point is select which keywords are relevant to you and to your market, and boom, you're done. You've managed to sort through and find the best opportunities in a huge array of keywords, and that's going to accelerate your ad campaigns, it's going to accelerate your content production, your SEO, so I'd love to give this template to you. I'm on LinkedIn a lot, so connect with me on LinkedIn. Just search for Paxton Gray. I'm probably the only one you'll find there. And then just connect with me and send me a message and say, hey, I'd love access to that keyword research template. I'll give you a link where you can go download it. I'll also give you a link to a longer webinar that shows you step-by-step how to use it, because it can get a little bit complicated. Here's a little case study of what this looks like. So Blendtec, they're a company that produces blenders, right? Most people know them because of Will It Blend. But there's some limitations to this campaign. Primarily, it's not impossible, it's really hard for them to capture leads on YouTube. Every time they start to do something that's more commercial, their subscribers start to go down. And the audience is limited. Like, these guys blend up a bunch of stuff in blenders, which is really cool, but who do you think's in the market for that kind of video? Really, it's like a lot of teenage boys. They want to see a bunch of stuff destroyed in blenders, and it's awesome, it is cool. But they're not in the market for a $350 blender. This actually came out when I was in my early 20s, so I was like, yeah, that is awesome. And am I ready to buy a $350 blender? No. But now I'm in my mid-30s. It's like, yeah, now I'm in the market. So great campaign if you're willing to play the long game, but that's a long, long game. So they came to us to find the different ways of targeting their target consumer. And we did this exact same method of keyword research that I just showed you, exactly the same. And we found this big group of keywords that were all about Buffalo Wild Wings and how to make their sauces at home. Because that's the reason people go to the Buffalo Wild Wings, right? It's the sauces. That's what they like about it. And so tons of volume here, very, very low difficulty. And so what we did is we created a piece on how to make all the different sauces at home. We published it on their site. We had some calls to action to get them into an email nurture system. And because the volume on these were so great, and because the competition was so low, they started ranking almost instantly for all of these keywords. In fact, it ranks number 1 for 66 keywords on the first page for 1,600, and that's about 30,000 to 50,000 page views a month. And that's zero promotion, no promotion whatsoever. And so it's all about finding those holes in the market and giving people what they're actually asking for. The people who are consuming this think, oh, great, this is awesome, this is what I wanted. And they're more likely to sign up now for future recipes and things from Blendtec, so that when they're ready to buy a blender, they think Blendtec first. The next tactic I'm talking about is called semantic analysis. So what this is we are trying to replicate how a search engine understands the internet so that we can learn from that about content and how we can create our content to be more friendly, not just to the algorithm, but to humans. So the algorithm will sort through tons and tons of pages of information, right? And it just reads it like a computer does. It sorts all of these articles or pages or whatever based off of some query from the user and delivers those to the user. So the question is, what happens here in the middle? Well, when Google visits a page, they start counting all the words, right? And they do that again and again. And they develop kind of a corpus of documents. They start to understand, a normal document looks like this. And so they compare a document to the corpus. And they can see, well, this document, the way it compares to our corpus of documents, it's different in these ways, and that means this document is about this. In a really simple way, that's kind of what's happening here. So it starts to understand for a particular document, what are the more important words and phrases unique to that document compared to others. And with enough of that information, it starts to understand topics that that document covers and how comprehensive that document is. Well, if I'm Google, my ideal scenario is that someone searches for something, clicks, and finds exactly what they were finding. That's a good user experience for Google, which means the user is more likely to come back. And so if I'm Google, I'm going to be more likely to favor an article that is more comprehensive, not longer necessarily, but more comprehensive on a given topic than another that's less comprehensive. And so what we need to figure out is, how do we make our article more comprehensive? And we compare that, we can learn what we're missing in terms of topics. We're not talking about word count here. We're not talking about, oh, you need to say the word X 3 times and the word Y 4 times. It's more just understanding what topics are we missing for it to be more complete. Here's what you can use to analyze this. Write is a cool tool for this. We actually built our own in-house software to do this, but Write is what we used before that, and I'd recommend using them. So with Write, you click on Content Success, you add in the keyword you want to rank for. It will go and analyze the SERP and figure out which words are more important and which words are less important for this particular topic. And so what we can do is figure out how our content compares to that. So here's a little case study. If we wanted to rank for uses for coconut oil, we would go to the SERP and see what Google has chosen as the best articles on that subject. And we can go through and count all of the words and see where we're missing according to what Google has chosen to be the most authoritative. And in Write, you can do that. You just take your URL, you compare it against the set, and it will show you how you compare. Now, what's interesting about this, we did this, and this is a real-life case study. We noticed that the most important word, according to what Google had chosen to rank, was yeast, and then number 4 was infections, and then infection. And we are the green dot. We're talking tons about coconut and lauric and other things that you would think are attached to coconut oil, but we didn't talk about yeast infections at all. And the reason this is so important to me, and I know this is kind of perhaps an awkward subject for some, this piece was written by some guy in his 30s, and he's not thinking much about yeast infections and when he's trying to create a topic or a piece of content that's complete around coconut oil. But this analysis showed us that we missed a topic. And yeah, if we add that, that's better for SEO and that will help us rank higher. That's true, and we want it for those reasons. But this also allows us to make content that is more complete for the user. If someone is interested in that element of uses for coconut oil and we just skip it, that forces them to go back to Google and find some other answer to that question. Instead of us providing the complete analysis of uses for coconut oil. So here's the piece. We added those missing words and phrases and topics. And rankings followed. In fact, this is the piece right here. So they were getting pretty great traffic, but we added those missing topics here, and within 2 weeks, almost doubled our organic traffic. And then here's another piece to show that it works on brand new pieces as well. This is a kale smoothie article. And we did the semantic analysis changes here, and we almost tripled our traffic within, again, 2 weeks. So it's very, very fast, instant results. But it's kind of some work to get to the place where you understand completely what are your missing topics on a given subject. And again, it's good for SEO as we see here, but I think what's more important than that is it's good for users. It helps you create content that's going to answer their questions. We worked with a big client in the finance space who they didn't really understand or believe this, and so we said, well, let's do a bake-off. They had an entire kind of magazine-style production team. We had our kind of gritty, on boots on the ground kind of people who were doing the keyword research and semantic analysis. And we said, you produce 7 pieces, we'll produce 7 pieces, we'll put them live at the same dates, and we won't do any promotion of them. Let's see how they do. Pages that were written with the keyword research and semantic analysis data ranked for 5 times more keywords and earned 12 times more organic traffic within 1 month than the control group. And the best piece that we wrote within 1 month was ranking for 141 keywords. The best in the other group was ranking for 36. And what's really interesting is we then promoted both sets with equal links, and we saw that those promoted in the articles promoted with links that were written with the keyword research and semantic analysis process improved by 400% in terms of organic traffic, and the control group saw no increase in performance. So that's a really great way. Those are two great ways so far to gather data on how your audience is thinking. This last one I call the human algorithm. It gets a little more, it's a little less sciencey and a little more heart, but some really cool tools I have in this one as well. So let's pretend for this example that we are the Betterment marketing team. And I say to you guys, all right guys, we got to create a bunch of content for Betterment, go. Like, let's create some good content. Think about what you would create. Many people would say, like, let's do 401k stuff, let's do tax stuff, let's do IRA stuff. Great. So here's a cool tool, Follower Wonk. It analyzes Twitter bios. In fact, there's a better tool that I would recommend now called Spark Toro. Look into it. It's similar but better. Anyway, Follower Wonk. It's also a great tool. It's really cheap. You add in a Twitter handle, and it will analyze all their followers, a bunch of information about their followers, and you can see it here. You can see where they live, when they tweet, what kinds of things they tweet, which is cool. This is my favorite part. This takes all the bio information that they put on their Twitter bios and puts it into a big word cloud. And what do we see here? These are the people that follow Betterment. They're fans of Betterment. We see love, husband, father, sports fan, California, and New York. Now that we know this information about Betterment's audience, what kind of content would you create now? Magic Johnson, right? He is worth $400 million. A-Rod, we've got East Coast, we've got West Coast, tons of money. What do these guys do with all their wealth? How do they manage their portfolio? Imagine if Betterment got a little bit of time and sat down with them and said, tell us about your investing strategy. Heck, why don't they go to Shaq? Shaq's a better businessman maybe even than a ball player. What is his philosophy on business management, on wealth, on how he handles his finances? That would be fascinating. And that market would eat that content up. That would be right up their alley. That hits the East Coast, West Coast sports fans that are husbands and fathers. What about creating content about how to be a better dad and take care of your family with a life insurance policy? Or how to set up a college savings plan for your kids, right? So many ways to talk to that audience and show them that we know who they are. And this is what Betterment's creating. Just stuff on the market and why there's turbulence and this isn't bad content, and I don't mean to pick on them. This is really what everyone's doing. What they're doing is they're trying to appeal to everybody, and in my opinion, they're kind of appealing to nobody by trying to appeal to everybody. This should be more in line with who their market is and how they speak and think. Here's a little case study I'm going to end on. eFile Cabinet, they're a client of ours. Love this company, amazing executive team, they're so cool. eFile Cabinet, they are a document management system for accountants and for HR and for mortgage loan officers, anyone who's dealing with tons and tons of paperwork. You can take all your papers and they will use OCR, they'll scan it in, they'll deal with your management, storage of those, any compliance issues that you have with that paperwork. Fantastic solution. And they're going after, accountants is a huge industry for them. And so they came to us really for SEO. They wanted to increase traffic, increase leads from SEO, build their brand, and help their salespeople talk to clients. And we made the mistake that I'm telling you guys not to make. We just thought, in our gut, who's an accountant? Accountant's this guy from Parks and Rec, right? He's older, he's dry, he doesn't have a sense of humor. The slightest joke is just so funny to him because he's so starved for entertainment. That's kind of who we thought of. This is your stereotypical accountant. And so we started working on a campaign for the stereotypical accountant. And there's a bunch of ebooks. And frankly, they did okay. We built out these logic funnels once they got delivered the ebook, and we would nurture them, and they converted, and it was okay. But then we thought, is this really who the accountants are? And we actually met with their sales reps, we interviewed their customers, and we did a bunch of other things that I've suggested today to understand that market better. And the thing that kept coming up over and over and over again is that this is who the accountant is. They're really just like us, which is funny to say, but it's true. I mean, they're just normal people, but the paperwork is the thing that kept coming up over and over again. They hate dealing with paper, with copiers, with fax machines, the filing cabinets, all of it. They hate it. So we thought, why don't we create a place where they can take out their frustration on all the things that they hate about their job? And what we did is we created the world's first mobile rage room that we took to a huge convention for accountants. We set it up. They would get suited up with gloves and a vest, and before that they would fill out a form that was a safety waiver, and it would get them into our HubSpot so we could nurture them, gather those leads. We also set up a camera inside where we would film them going to town on a copier or a fax machine or a printer, and then we would send them their own video so they could share it with friends and coworkers. And they loved it. They ate it up. If we had the archaic idea of who an accountant was, this wouldn't have worked. But they weren't who we thought they were. And they just destroyed these things. It was so cool. And they loved it. We got a ton of press because of this, both print and video. And just in case you're interested, we recycled every piece of electronic that we destroyed during this. This built organic traffic. We got a ton of links organically because the campaign was so cool. We got more leads because of all these people coming in, and we nurtured them. We built their brand and helped their salespeople get in the door. But in my opinion, what this really did, that's the most important thing, is it told thousands of accountants at this conference that we understand you. We understand what it's like to be an accountant and have to deal with all these printers and fax machines and whatnot. And we're going to give you a chance to do something you've always wanted to do. And if we understand you this much, just imagine how much our product understands you and will solve those problems. And that's the goal of marketing. If our marketing comes off that we don't understand you, why would the consumer think that the product understands them, right? There needs to be that alignment. And so we need to work to gather data so that we can teach them that we understand them. So if you find yourself in that half of marketers that don't feel highly proficient in their jobs or don't feel like you know what you're doing, think about how can you gather more data to input into your mind so that your mind can do what it does best and crunch on that data and come up with cool ideas. Because if we can show our market that we understand them, that we're here for them, that our content is here to give them a better experience, not to serve us, then what that does is that creates raving fans for our brand. And the raving fans do most of the work for us. They'll bring friends and family and coworkers to us, and then suddenly we don't have a lot to do as marketers because it's going to grow on its own. But it's so much work to show those clients, those customers, that we understand them and that we care about them. That's been my presentation. If you ever want to talk more about content marketing, SEO, conversion rate optimization, advertising, hit me up. Just reach me, LinkedIn, Paxton Gray. You can also find me Paxton at 97thfloor.com. Thank you so much.